I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, I want to take a look at the chorus block and share some of my favorite settings as well as some general tips and tricks for dialing in your own tones. To get started, I've got this Strat on the neck pickup. I'm using the ODS 100 clean out model with my EV12 IR from my Gift of Tone preset pack. I'll link it in the video description. Tiny amount of medium room reverb in here. Let's hear it. Let's place a chorus block on the grid. The beauty of the fractal ecosystem is you can place this anywhere you like in the chain. Keep in mind that if you're playing with heavy distortion, placing the chorus before or after gain is going to sound different. I'll give you some examples later in the video, but for now, let's just place the chorus after the cab block because I want to play around not only with some monotones, but with some stereo tones. And in fact, the default type on the chorus block is the analog stereo type. I think we should just hear it. Immediately, that is everything I want out of a chorus. It is lush, it's wide, it's warm sounding. It makes it really hard to go back to a non-chorused tone. The most important controls that you have on basically any modulation type are going to begin with the rate and depth control on here. There's a lot of controls happening here, but I would recommend basically scrolling through the types until you find a type you like the sound of, and then experiment with the rate and the depth on here. For example, if I set the rate quite low, I'm going to get less of that wobbly chorus sound and more of just like a stereo enhancer style sound. Let's hear it bypassed and then engaged. A general rule of thumb is a low chorus rate, a high chorus depth. A high chorus rate, a low chorus depth. That is going to stop the effect sounding, I guess, too cartoonish or too over-exaggerated. In my opinion, it sounds quite musical. You would have noticed there, though, that I only played around with the rate. As the rate got lower, kind of sounded like the chorus got more intense and vice versa. That's because there is this auto depth control on here, which essentially factors in what I was just talking about. A chorus with a low rate and a high depth is going to sound pretty good, and a chorus with a high rate and low depth is also going to sound pretty good. You've got three auto depth settings on here: low, high, and off. If you disable it, then you can just use the rate and the depth control as you would a normal chorus. But what I find is it's really easy to get carried away there. So let's take this setting that I've got here, and I'll just switch between high and low. I, of course, still have the ability to adjust the depth on there. For example, if I stay on this low auto depth, I can bring the depth control right down and make my chorus pretty subtle. You can hear with auto depth off, you can get super crazy sounding with the chorus effects if you want to. I did mention earlier selecting different types is a great way to start. So I want to highlight a few types in here which I really like the sound of. The analog stereo obviously sounds fantastic, and just sticking to rate, depth, and auto depth on there is going to get you to where you want really, really quickly, whether you like that kind of subtle shimmery chorus or you like that big syrupy rich chorus. The dimension types are really fascinating in here. These are based off the old Boss and Roland dimension style effect, which uses some fun stereo processing on there. I often recommend these types as a great place to start for people going for an 80s style sound. If you set the rate around 0.5 hertz and just kind of adjust the depth down a little bit, you have like that instant studio sound from, say, the mid to late 80s. Speaking of 80s tones, the stereo tri-chorus is a must try if you're into that Michael Landau, Dan Huff, Steve Lukather thing. I don't know if Lukather used a tri-chorus, but the other two definitely did. The tri-chorus is really interesting in that it actually uses 3 offset LFOs to try and combat that seasick sound you get out of a chorus. So basically kind of set your rate, and I like the tri-stereo chorus up around 2 hertz, and then you can play around with the individual depths for the left, center, and right. If we kind of turn those up around the 70%-ish mark and bring the master depth up to 100, you are going to get a massively lush, wide-sounding chorus. Building on that idea, the 8-voice stereotype is pretty fascinating for really lush, almost Leslie-style tones on here. You can see you can set the number of voices up to 8 in any effect type in the chorus. You can also set the core delay time in here, and longer delay times I normally associate with analog style chorusing. Lower delay times are going to get you more of that digital chorus or even sort of flanger style tones in there. Just note that with the number of voices going above 2, the LFO type is going to default to sine. And we'll talk about the LFO type in just a second, but the 8-voice stereo, I think, deserves highlighting. If you just want some mono chorus fun, the Japan CE2 type is pretty awesome. What I like with this particular type is actually playing around with the LFO type, which we just talked about. Let's have a listen to where it is set at the moment. And I'm going to change the LFO type from triangle to sine to A stable. And A stable is almost like in between a sine and a triangle. It's pretty interesting. Playing around with the waveforms in there is a bit of a rabbit hole. I don't think you need to do it to get a great chorus sound, but if you're trying to match, say, a piece of hardware, a chorus that you really like a pedal or a rack unit, that one's worth experimenting with. You also heard in there, as I changed the delay time, the chorus went from very kind of smooth and shimmery again to that like analog lumpy kind of sound, which some people really like. You can use the chorus as a pure vibrato by just turning the mix control up to 100%. I like this with a kind of higher rate on here, for this kind of thing. Let's hear this with some distortion now. I've loaded up Alex Lifeson's chorus setting from their Gift of Tone pack, and I've placed it pre-gain. And I want you to hear the difference between pre and post-gain chorus on here. We'll start dry, I'll kick it in, and then I'll drag it after the cab block. The effect is far more exaggerated post-gain, and if you're using one of the stereotypes, for example, from my blocks library, you could come in here and choose the 2290 chorus. You can also play around with the phase reverse parameter on here. I'll let you hear this set to none, and then I'll kick it on to right, and make sure you're listening in stereo. This will sound wider than wide, kind of like we do with the 2290 delay. It's such an awesome trick for extra width, especially if you're playing live in stereo. You can do similar but not identical things by playing around with the LFO phase parameter on here. 90 degrees sounds a little bit kind of wider and more natural in my opinion than 0. Let's hear it. And then finally, on the tone page, you have a low cut and high cut for the chorus, as well as the ability to add some drive in there. You can also switch on the different dimension modes on there. Another block in my library is based on the Boss DC2, the dimension pedal. You can see some settings in here. It's using the medium dimension mode, the high cuts at 10K, the rates at 0.615 Hertz, mix is above 50%. Should have mentioned as well, you can play around with the mix control and set it to taste on here. The depth is quite low with auto depth off. The delay time is quite low as well, and the LFO phase is at 180 degrees. This kind of brings together a lot of these tricks that we've been talking about. Let's hear it. Something the real pedal doesn't have, of course, is a mix control. I would personally bring that down to maybe 35, 40%, and we get this. That is nearly all of the tricks available in the chorus block. Again, I would stick to selecting a type that you like and then playing around with the rate, the depth, and if needed, the auto depth parameter on there. Everything else is kind of gravy on top for absolute chorus addicts. Another thing you can do, of course, is use the LFO2 in here. This will modulate the rate control on here. Really, really good, again, if you want to kind of mimic those really old school, unreliable chorus pedals or rack units. I'll leave that as an exercise for all of you and play you all out with this dimension style chorus on here. If you'd like me to do this for any other block on the Axe FX3, FM9 or FM3, let me know in the comment section below. You can grab my blocks library. It is linked in the video description along with my IR. I'll also link the Gift of Tone series so you can go and grab some awesome free goodies. Have a great day. I hope you enjoy playing guitar this week. Let me know any questions in the comment section below and I'll see you all next time.